I know I need a haircut. Shut up. It happened. Hello one, hello all, and welcome to another episode of me talking about moving pixels on a TV screen. It's quite interesting. It's quite unexpected. Stay for the ride. Today's topic is passion projects, and according to the Cambridge Dictionary, the definition of a passion project. According to the Cambridge Dictionary, the definition of a passion project is a piece of work, especially a movie, that someone gets involved in because they love it or feel it is very good and important, not in order to make money. Things like this I would say, include Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, because that movie took many, many years to just film and edit and make. The more movies I see come out that are passion projects or just not a way to rake in a bunch of money are just very nice refreshers to see, especially if said passion project is something in the lower budget range. Somebody who just had an idea and wanted to see it into fruition. Something like this would include the movie Hundreds of Beavers. I'm assuming that this movie was made on the budget of $5 and a camera lent on an IOU. Despite the movie having the budget of a singular Big Mac, this was a very fun and whimsical watch. This movie has a very particular art style that references different movies made in the 1900s and the early 1900s, like black and white movies, and also having references to modern day entertainment like video game references. But this movie is pretty simple in its premise, in that a guy who was owner of this drinking establishment, had a bunch of apple trees and made apple ale for everyone passing by, suddenly has it taken away from him. And in this wilderness, he has to find a way to fight for himself and fend for himself, and also acquire a ring to get with this lady that he just met. The plot of this movie is interesting, to say the least. The comedy is very inspired by video game comedy, by Three Stooges. Its comedy is very much inspired by older media. It's just very interesting to make a movie this stylistic modernly. It's just very interesting and it's very fun, so I would recommend this to anybody. And it's I think on Amazon right now for free, so you can just watch it on there if you want. And it's also very reminiscent of like an old 1900s Mickey Mouse cartoon in the way that the characters move in like real life, stitched in with some animation, and then also a lot of the characters being in costume rather than like an animated animal. It's just a very funny stylistic choice, and it adds to this type of humor throughout the movie. So if you're a fan of different types of movies like this and my movie reviews, make sure to bite that like button, impale the subscribe button, and high five the bell. Because always, the bell is cool, the bell is good, the bell loves you back. What do we do to people who love us? We treat them kindly. Just a little. just a little tip of love there for you. God, why do I? So the movie starts off with a main character named Gene, who owns this apple field, who makes apple ale for everybody, and everybody drinks it, and he loses it all in an explosion because beavers bit down the bottom of his barrels. He was on top of one, he rolled it into his house, and it blew up. Damn! Rest in peace, Gene! After all of this, he has to try to just fend off for himself by making a fire or hunting, which he doesn't do very well at the beginning of the movie. Gene tries to make a fire, but then the wind blows it over. So next we see him building fire by a tree, and then wind blows in the opposite direction. And then he just kind of progresses forward throughout the movie, learning different tips and tricks to survive on his own. He tries to attract some bunnies by creating a decoy bunny with boobs. And then there's a funny joke where the bunnies with boobs don't work on these two bunnies because they're gay. Gene pops out and is like, oh, that's cool. I'll do something else then. So Gene tries to make this giant carrot and push it on top of the bunnies. The carrot's made of snow. He doesn't just conjure a giant carrot. But then when he tries pushing the carrot on top of the bunny, it kind of rolls away instead of on top of him because of the weight distribution of the carrot is heavier on the front. So it doesn't roll completely, and it just misses the bunny. Gene then figures out that there are holes in the ground that lead to other holes that the bunnies are creating, like little underground tunnels. Tunnels that they go to, and he later figures out that he can trap some of the holes off so they all only show up through one hole. And basically this trend just keeps going all throughout the movie, where he learns from his mistakes, does better, eventually catches fish or other animals, so on and so forth. That is the very bare minimum gist of the movie. It's very simple, very fun. Later, Gene tries to catch some fish using his finger, and it doesn't work. Gene kind of gives up, and he puts a finger gun in his mouth, has to insinuate that he's, given up. And he bites his finger, he puts it in the water, and the fish bite his finger, so he catches a fish. And so he bites all of his fingers to catch a bunch of fish, and the fish are made of puppets too. Very stylistic. This movie is. You guys like my Yoda impression? I think that was perfect. Views this guy does not get. Yoda, that was so mean. Yoda, that was so mean. That was so uncalled for, Yoda. What? Yoda, what? Yoda, what? Friends you do not have. Yoda, what? Yoda! Yoda, what? What happened to being wise? What happened to being friendly, Yoda? I think I hate that little green man now. That little green man's about to get my hands. Touch me, you do? With my fist, Yoda, not my fingers. Lying you are. Lying Yoda knows you are lying. You lie to Yoda? What is this bit turning into? Touch me. Yoda, what? Once he gets all of his fish, he goes to the merchant. And then Santa's also there at the merchant. I'm gonna say a lot of things that don't make sense. Keep up with me. This is a good movie. Santa's at the merchant. He killed some beavers. The merchant's like, Beaver? Beaver me happy? What does that mean? The merchant takes the beavers, gives Santa some money, and Santa's like, yeah, I'm the trapper guy. I trap animals, and yeah. And Gina's like, I want to be him so bad. He's so cool. That's freaking Santa Claus. After Santa gets that bag, the merchant's like, hey, Santa, you want to marry my daughter? And Santa's like, oh, I'm kind of in a commitment already. Mrs. Claus would be so mad. And the merchant's like, please. Please, I need the money. I gotta go. Santa, please. I have other commitments. I'm sorry. It was nice meeting you. We have business together, but I gotta go. Okay. It was nice meeting you, though. It's nice meeting your daughter too. You have a good one. Once Santa leaves, Gene is like, I have these fish. What can I get for it? And gets a single coin and gives it to Gene. Once Gene has his coin, he's able to buy a knife. The knife is a really small knife, so he can't really do a whole lot with that. Once he has this knife, he uses it to, again, make traps, learn, do other things and learn, make traps and kill animals. It's very simple, very progressive, but very simple. He eventually kills his first animal, with it being a raccoon. Takes it to the merchant and is able to get a raccoon hat and a vest. He's dripped out. He's dripping in the cold. Yeah! Lee! This guy's amazing! How about you focus on up now? How about you focus on up now? How about you focus on up now? Thank you. Don't you ever change. All this kind of learning from your mistakes and getting better at surviving and catching animals really reminds me of the game Don't Starve. First off, love that game. Like in that game, you're dropped in the middle of nowhere and you have to figure out how to fight animals, catch prey, have shelter. It very much reminds me of this movie. Later on, Gene meets up with an Indian guy who has a horse, and the horse is just two people under a sheet, and then we get a full frontal view of the horse, and it's just a guy's face with like a horse head on top of it. It's so low budget, but they use their budget so wisely that it's like funny. It's very funny with what they have, and I love it. Actually, I think before Gene meets the Indian, he kind of falls into a trap that Santa laid out, and then Santa helps Gene out of the trap, and then they kind of like have a little bro time together, and then Gene learns from Santa how to make better traps, and then later Santa sort of freaking dies, but gives Gene his little like trap guide before he dies. And Santa dies because a bunch of wolves maul him. It's like, oh dang, Santa, who's gonna get the presents now? But Gene has all these tips now to get prey, like setting poop out with beaver guts, and it attracts beavers, and then he uses that as a trap to kill beavers, wooden carrots to get bunnies, and stakes to kill raccoons, and then it eventually turns into a whole like auto farming plant for beavers eventually. Very funny, the progression of this movie. Like turns into beaver killing tycoon. If you haven't seen this movie, you really should watch it. I'm leaving out a lot of details on purpose because there's just so many little funny gags all throughout it. And really from here, it's still just like very straightforward. The wolves, after they killed Santa, took all the beaver pelts into their cave, and so Gene has to figure out how to get those pelts back. Throughout the movie, Gene is able to get supplies to get more things from the merchant, like trading beaver pelts and wolf pelts and rabbit pelts for different things that the merchant offers, like ropes and traps and eventually a gun. After the merchant Later, after the merchant figures out that Santa Claus died, he put up on his sign that the ring is now for sale, but for how much? We will never know until near the end of the movie. So fast forward to near the end of the movie. The merchant is like, I will sell you the ring for hundreds of beavers.
Title card, baby! That's a freaking title card. Hundreds of beavers, baby.
And so, after Gene, through figuring out all these things that Santa Trapper gave him, all these little tips, he's able to not only get the pelt bag from the wolf cave, but he's able to lure a bunch of beavers in the cave with him and gas them all. And so they all die. He's able to get this huge bag of pelt stuff, bring it to the merchant to get his ring. Ah, heck yeah! Oh, hey! Oh! Man, this Gene guy is inspiring. He's inspiring me so much. Thank you, Gene. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gosh, I really do need a haircut. Look at... Oh my... When Gene gets to the merchant, we figure out that it was a trap. And it was a giant cardboard cutout that falls onto Gene and flattens him. How did this happen? I left out a minor detail. I might have left out a minor detail or two, bear with me. So there are these Sherlock Beavers. Sherlock's boyfriend. There were these Sherlock Beavers that were tracking Gene around and figuring out that he was killing all these beavers, and they set up a trap to trap Gene. And then they took all the pelts to their beaver lair, which we see the beaver lair getting built all throughout the movie. It's just like, why are these beavers even gathering wood? For a dam? No. And then Gene is like, shoot. I have to get these things back so I can marry that girl and get a ring and marry her, yeah. So Gene goes to this camp and, figures out tips and tricks to get into the camp. He gets into the camp, and then while he's going along, he sees his stolen barrel of apple ale. And he's like, I need a drink so bad. This is so stressful. So he goes to get a drink, and he's really fighting their urge to get a drink and get drunk, get the pelts, get drunk, get married, get drunk. And this is very reminiscent of modern males and relationships. Guys, picture this. Your broad comes home from work. You have a whole case of Bapple in the fridge. She starts talking to you about her day. You could say in your mind's eye, should I have a case of Bapple? Or should I listen to my loving wife? Do we think that this case of Bapple will fuel the fire in our relationships? Or will it fuel the self-hatred you have in your heart for yourself? Let's be honest. A case of Bapple will never let anybody feel better than they are in the moment, unless they are in extreme pain. If your wife is talking to you about her day, maybe give her a listen instead. Maybe share a Bapple a can apiece. Can of Bapple apiece. Bapple of a can. Share some with your wife. Listen to her words. She'll listen to you. Have a good time. Have a drink. Don't overconsume yourself. Have alcohol in moderation. Leave that case for another day. My friends, Bapple is good. A loving wife is better. Moderation, my friends. Did I kill that?
Hey, honey, did I kill that or what? Yes, dear, you freaking killed it. Thanks.
Guys. So he decides against drinking his Bapple and going for the loot instead. He goes through this wacky adventure to get his bag back and eventually gets caught by the police beavers and ends up in beaver court and gets tried guilty for beaver murder. He's then put on this table to get sawed in half by some beavers, and then it just leads to a funny little fight. The fight scene actually made me laugh the hardest in this movie. I don't want to spoil any of it. I think it's just very silly. Actually, scratch that. I will add this one joke that made me laugh. So it's like Gene trying to escape from these tied ropes, and he learns from his past mistakes before what he should do, and then the beavers react like this. Later, when Gene escapes, he figures out that the beavers are trying to make a beaver rocket. They're trying to build a rocket. Gene kind of gets in there and makes the rocket go haywire and destroy the entirety of the beaver empire or whatever. Then Gene gets his beaver bag and then pulls the beaver bag and pushes it into the merchant. Pushes it down a hill and it just kind of rolls all the way there. Then a bunch of mishaps happen. All the beavers form a giant beaver human, and then they form a giant beaver human. Did the rocket not shock you enough? Did beavers making a NASA rocket not shock you enough? Yes, they made a beaver giant. Out of stacking beavers together, they made a giant beaver giant, and they went and tried to get the ball back. And we're not even going to talk about the sled chase scene where Gene full-on clocks the block out of a beaver. And also the random house for sale sign while they're going by. So it's like Monty Python level of comedy where there's like, oh, then the police come with the medieval people killing each other. It's so stupid and silly. I love it. But anyway, by the end of the movie, finally gets the ball to the... Oh, wait. One more funny joke. When there's the beaver giant it might have been on purpose, I don't know. The beaver giant steps on the Indian's horse. The Indian goes crazy mode. He lassos up the rocket while it's flying by with an arrow and swings it, hits the beaver giant, and it explodes, and the beaver giant dies. It's so silly. Like, it's so out of pocket and random, but the way that it's executed is just very funny. So they finally get all the loot to the merchant, and it's marriage time, and then the movie ends with the merchant kissing the guy, and then the guy looking at the camera like, the guy is like, spits his thing into the cup. Guy has everything, goes from nothing, ends up being better than when he was before. When you hit rock bottom, maybe that's a chance to improve yourself better than you were before. Not everything is a dead end. There are no such things as dead ends. Rock bottom, maybe, but that means you can only go up from there. Maybe once you've reached that low of a low, your goals are set higher than before. But here are my thoughts of the movie as a whole. It's a little cheesy, which I'm all right with. It's a little cheesy, and no, I don't think cheesy is the right word. It's just a little very reminiscent of comedy in the early 1900s, along with video game comedy and just jokes that are very, they feel very inspired in a way that's not like very corny sex, drugs, alcohol humor, except for the main character being an alcoholic. I guess that kind of adds to it. I can appreciate it very stylistically. Is it a little campy? That's fine. I mean, it's just like a fun movie that executes itself in a way that does exactly what it's intended to do, other than just being a silly comedy. Though at the beginning of the movie, it felt like the comedy was very slapstick, and that happened kind of humor and very just random humor definitely developed throughout to be very funny in a way that it develops from past jokes made in the movie to be like, oh, that's actually kind of funny now than what it was before. Like, this movie felt like a story that some guy just really wanted to tell and did his dang best to get enough money to produce this movie. So as I accepted that fact that this movie is a low budget movie intended for people to just know the story that this guy had in his mind instead of just a grab bag based on some book, it made me enjoy it a little bit more. It made me actually kind of feel a little inspired to create things myself, which is kind of why I wanted to make a movie about it. Or not a movie. I'm making a movie about a low budget movie. Is it a goofy gag reel movie? Yeah. Is it super low budget? Yeah, but that shouldn't matter if the movie is very enjoyable. They used their budget to the best gosh darn budget expectations that they had. Unlike Disney with their $10 million per episode She-Hulk show. Like, if we're acceptable of these large movie companies or TV companies making garbage stuff for millions and millions of dollars, but this original idea with very stylistic choices to be made with only $150K, I think was the actual budget was $150K. I can't help but appreciate that. Like, it's very nice to see things like that get made and not wonder, like, where did the budget actually go in this movie? This movie reminds me a lot of those mafia ads that you would see like a year ago. They're like, oh, you were the mafia boss, then you got kicked over by the bigger mafia boss. Now you gotta beat up women and do drugs to become the ultimate mafia boss. Download our kid-friendly game. Like, this movie is basically that ad as a movie, but entertaining at the same time. Sometimes I like to lay on the floor and take naps, because it just feels homey and relaxing. And you should also subscribe. But that is all for now. Just a little update though. I did get a new computer. If the frame rate actually looks any better, that's why. I'm gonna probably start recording other things instead of just movie reviews, because that's kind of all I could do on my other laptop. I would like to stream more and do other things. So I have other things planned. So we will see if that comes into fruition. But as always, thank you guys for stopping by. I hope every one and all of you had a good time stopping by and were able to just kick back and relax, enjoy. You know what I'm saying? I think that's all. You guys want to say anything? Huh? Whoa! Why would you say that? Like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. I'll see ya. Bye.